Millionaires, tell us your story of how you got rich. Alright, buckle up, because this story is a roller coaster. I never planned to be rich. Hell, I never even planned to be middle class. I was just another broke college dropout working at a gas station, eating ramen, and hoping my car wouldn't break down again. Then, a weird chain of events turned me into a millionaire. So, I was working the night shift at this dingy gas station off the highway. Boring as hell. One night, this guy walks in looking like absolute garbage. Torn clothes, smelled like he bathed in regret and cheap whiskey. He comes up to the counter and starts buying a ridiculous amount of scratch-off tickets. Now, I don't usually talk to customers beyond, "That'll be $9.47, but this guy was muttering under his breath about one last shot. I asked him if he was okay, and he just laughs. Says something about how he used to be rich, made bad choices, and now he's got nothing left but these lottery tickets. So I say, "Man, if you used to be rich, why the hell are you here?" And he tells me. He spills everything. Turns out, he was a former crypto guy who made a fortune early but lost it all when he got too greedy. But before he tanked, he figured out a method to predict short-term market swings, something about tracking whale movements and market sentiment. It worked, but he got overconfident and wiped himself out. I don't know why, but I actually listened. Maybe because I had nothing to lose, maybe because I was sick of scanning energy drinks for drunk college kids at 3 a.m. That night, after my shift, I went home and started reading everything I could about crypto, stocks, and market psychology. I didn't sleep. For weeks. And then, shit got real. Dude, I feel this in my soul. The number of times I've stared at my ramen noodles, thinking there's gotta be more to life than this is too damn high. But you actually did something. I need to know, did you actually start trading, or did you just get scammed by some TikTok finance bro? Bro just casually met a fallen millionaire at a gas station? My life is so boring. Alright, so after that night, I became obsessed. I mean full-blown, conspiracy board on my bedroom wall, 12 tabs open, at all times obsessed. I read everything, crypto forums, investment strategies, even deep dived into old Reddit posts where people shared their wins and mostly losses. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I had exactly $312 to my name. That was my entire net worth, not counting the car that needed more oil than gas to run. I knew I had one shot. So, after weeks of research, I decided to go all in. Not on Bitcoin. Not on Ethereum. On a shitcoin nobody was talking about. There was this obscure token that had just been mentioned in a whale tracker forum. Some billionaire had moved a huge chunk into it, and the price hadn't pumped yet. I figured, if this guy was putting millions into it, maybe he knew something I didn't. So I said, screw it. I dumped my entire $312 into this random-ass token and prayed to whatever crypto gods existed. Then I waited. For 3 days, nothing happened. Price didn't move. I started questioning every life decision that led me to this point. Then, on the 4th day, boom. The token exploded overnight. I woke up to my $312 turning into $3,800. I lost my damn mind. I was running around my tiny apartment, screaming like I just won the lottery. But here's the thing, this wasn't the end. It was just the start. Because I didn't cash out. I doubled down. And that's when things got really insane. You threw everything into a random coin because one rich dude moved money into it? My guy, you have balls of steel or the luck of a leprechaun. Also, tell me you didn't go full Deegan and lose it all. Imagine making $3K overnight and still being stressed. I'd have retired right then and there. So there I was, staring at my phone like it was a portal to another universe. My $312 had turned into $3,800 overnight, and for the first time in my life, I had options. Now, a smart person would have cashed out, treated themselves to a decent meal, and maybe paid off a couple of overdue bills. But I had been broke my whole life. $3,800 felt like a lot, but not life-changing. I wanted more. So I did something incredibly stupid. Or incredibly smart. Depends on how you look at it. I took every single dollar I had and started hunting for my next move. At this point, I wasn't just gambling, I had developed a system. I was tracking whale movements, reading obscure financial reports, and lurking in dark corners of the internet where actual finance nerds talked about real market manipulation. Then I found it. A tiny, barely known DeFi project that was launching in 48 hours. It had all the right signs: low market cap, big backers in the shadows, and a quiet but consistent influx of cash. This was the one. I went all in. Every single dollar. And then I waited. First few hours, nothing. Next morning, still nothing. Afternoon, a tiny 2% increase. I started sweating. Maybe I had just waylaid myself into financial ruin. Maybe I should have just been happy with my $3,800 and called it a win. Then, bam. At exactly 7:32 p.m., the price exploded. I'm talking 5x in an hour. My $3,800 had just turned into $19,000. I sat there in total silence, staring at my screen, trying to process what just happened. My hands were shaking. I checked the price again. Still climbing. I wasn't broke anymore. And that's when I made the most important decision of my life. I did not sell. My dude just casually turned gas station wages into $19,000 like it was a side quest. But why didn't you sell? I swear to God, if you tell me you lost it all in the next part, I'm gonna scream. Bro went full Deegan mode and it actually worked. I need to reevaluate my entire life. Alright, so I'm sitting there, staring at my phone, watching my $3,800 turn into $19,000. My brain is short-circuiting. I feel like I just hacked reality. At this point, the rational part of me is screaming, sell. Take the money and run. But then there's the other part, the part that's high off adrenaline, that just made more in a day than I had in months working that gas station. And that part? That part whispers, what if it keeps going? I listened to the whisper. I held. And for a few glorious hours, it was the best decision I'd ever made. By midnight, my balance was sitting at $27,000. I was pacing my tiny apartment, convinced that I had figured out the cheat code to life. Then, the rug got pulled. At 3:17 a.m., I woke up to a notification. The token had crashed. I scrambled to open the chart. The price was in free fall. I watched helpless, as my $27,000 plummeted to $6,400 in real time. My stomach felt like it had been ripped out of my body. I panicked. Do I sell? Do I hold? Is this a dip, or am I about to lose everything? I frantically scrolled through Twitter, Discord, anything that could give me an answer. That's when I saw it. The devs had abandoned the project. The whole thing was a coordinated pump and dump. I had just been rugged. I stared at the screen, feeling like the biggest idiot on the planet. I went from having life-changing money to being just slightly less broke than before, all because I got greedy. I should have quit. I should have walked away, accepted my loss, and moved on. But I didn't. Because right then, in that moment of absolute despair, I learned the most valuable lesson about money, greed, and how the game is really played. And I swore I was going to win. I knew this was coming. The second you said you didn't sell, I felt the universe preparing to humble you. But also, respect. Most people would have rage quit after that. Bro just lived through every trader's worst nightmare in one night. Absolute pain. You ever feel your soul leave your body? Because that's what happened when I watched my $27,000 evaporate into $6,400 overnight. I just sat there numb, staring at my phone like it had personally betrayed me. But instead of quitting, I did something insane. I doubled down. I wasn't about to let this be my story. No way in hell was I gonna be just another idiot who got rugged and crawled back to his dead-end job. If I was gonna go out, I was going out swinging. So I took a deep breath, cracked my knuckles, and went full psycho mode. I spent the next 2 weeks studying everything. I'm talking sleepless nights, Red Bull-fueled research binges, watching whale wallets like my life depended on it. I was determined to understand exactly how these pumps worked, who was making the money, who was getting played, and most importantly, how to be on the winning side. Then I found my shot. A brand new token was launching, backed by some very interesting wallet movements. This wasn't some random gamble, this was planned. Someone wanted this coin to go nuclear. I waited for launch. The second it went live, I aped in with everything I had left, $6,400 on the line. And then, boom. It skyrocketed. I'm talking 10x in hours. My portfolio hit $64,000. But this time, I wasn't greedy. At $64,000, I pulled half out. That was my golden rule now, always take profits. I kept the other half in, and sure enough, it climbed even higher. By the end of the run, I was sitting on $110,000. I had done it. In less than a month, I went from a gas station night shift to a six-figure portfolio. But here's the thing. That was just the beginning. Because now, I knew how the game was played. Bro went from full-blown pain to revenge arc in 2 weeks. This is the kind of comeback story they make movies about. Also, thank you for finally taking profits. I was about to have a heart attack reading this. So there I was, $110,000 sitting in my account. More money than I'd ever had in my life. More money than anyone in my family had ever seen. You'd think this was the part where I celebrated, right? Booked a vacation, treated myself to something nice, maybe even just breathed for the first time in weeks? Yeah. No. Because here's what they don't tell you about making money fast. It breaks your brain. I became obsessed. Like, actually obsessed. Every second of the day, I was glued to my phone, tracking charts, reading every rumor, every post, every shady Discord message that might give me an edge. I stopped hanging out with my friends. Stopped sleeping. Stopped eating anything that wasn't microwavable. And then the paranoia kicked in. See, when you're broke, you worry about normal things: rent, groceries, gas money. But when you suddenly have 6 figures and no idea how to handle it, your brain does some wild gymnastics. What if I lose it all again? What if the bank freezes my account? What if I get hacked? What if this is all a dream and I wake up broke? I started withdrawing cash and hiding it in random places in my apartment. Like a lunatic. I even Googled how to store money safely, and found myself on some deep web survivalist forums where guys were discussing burying gold in their backyards. It wasn't just about keeping the money anymore. It was about not losing. And that was dangerous. Because when you're terrified of losing, you stop playing to win. That's when I made my worst decision yet. I stopped trusting my own strategy. I got greedy. I got careless. And I made a trade that, to this day, still haunts me. The moment you started hiding cash in your apartment like a GTA character, I knew this was about to go south. I swear, fast money is a curse if you don't know how to handle it. Bro went from broke and reckless to rich and paranoid. I've seen this movie before, and the ending is never good. Alright. Here's where it all went to hell. I had $110,000. 6 figures. More than I ever thought I'd touch in my entire life. But instead of feeling like I won, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, one gust of wind away from falling back into poverty. And that fear? That paranoia? It made me reckless. I was convinced I needed more. More money, more cushion, more security. Because if I made $110,000 this fast, what was stopping me from making $1 million? That's when I made the trade. I had been following this one coin, let's call it Deegan Swap. It was blowing up in the underground circles, and everyone in the I Make Millions Off Shitcoins Telegram group was talking about it like it was the next big thing. So naturally, I went all in. Every single dollar. $110,000 into a brand new, barely tested DeFi project. And for the first few hours, it looked like I was a genius. The price tripled almost instantly. My portfolio was sitting at $330,000. $330,000. At that moment, I could have cashed out and changed my life forever. Bought a house. Set up investments. Never had to worry about money again. But nah. I got cocky. I told myself, if it tripled this fast, imagine what happens when it 10x's. I didn't sell. Then, in the span of 5 minutes, I watched my screen turn into a crime scene. Liquidity pulled. Smart contract exploited. Token crashed to 0. I blinked. Refreshed. Refreshed again. My $330,000 was gone. Like, gone. There was no dip to buy. No recovery. Just absolute, irreversible, catastrophic destruction. I sat there in complete silence. No emotions. No tears. Just an overwhelming realization that I had just lost everything. I didn't eat for 2 days. Didn't talk to anyone. Just sat in my apartment, replaying the moment over and over in my head, trying to make sense of how I went from gas station wages to six figures to rock bottom all in the span of a few months. And that's when I finally understood. Making money is easy. Keeping it? That's the real challenge. I actually gasped reading this. Bro, you had generational wealth in your hands and let it slip. This is why we take profits, people. The way my stomach dropped when you said $330K. This is every trader's nightmare. So where am I now? Did I make it back? Did I get rich again? Yeah, I did. But not how you think. See, after losing everything, I realized something. I wasn't playing to win, I was playing not to lose. And that mindset? That's what destroys people. I stopped chasing pumps. Stopped gambling. Started investing. Learned about long-term wealth, real businesses, assets that don't vanish overnight. It took time, but I built it back up, the right way. Today, I'm not just some Deegan trader. I own actual businesses, I invest in real projects, and most importantly, I don't stress about money anymore. Because once you learn how to build wealth instead of just make money, that's when you actually get rich. And that's the real cheat code. Rich people tell us how you earned your first million, and maybe your story will be in the next video. Thank you for watching.